The first thing she ever said to me wasn't flirtatious. It wasn't kind, either. It was precise. "You're looking at me the wrong way." She said it while touching my shoulder, just 2 fingers, light, corrective, like she was adjusting something slightly out of place. The words should have embarrassed me. The touch should have ended the moment. Instead, both stayed longer than they had any right to. This happened on a Tuesday afternoon in the back room of the copy repair shop, where I'd just started working. Fluorescent lights. The smell of toner and burnt coffee. Nothing romantic about it. I was 26 and still learning how not to look like I was guessing my way through adulthood. She was older, mid-40s, maybe more, calm in a way that made time slow down around her. She was there because her office printer kept jamming, and I was the unlucky one assigned to help. She watched me work without hovering, arms loosely folded, head tilted, not impatient, just attentive. That was the first thing I noticed. The second was how quiet she was. Not awkward quiet. Intentional. I caught my reflection in the black plastic of the machine, then hers beside it. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just waited. That's when she touched my shoulder. Not to stop me. Not to pull me closer. Just enough pressure to let me know she was there. "You're looking at me the wrong way," she repeated, softer this time. Sorry," I said immediately, heat rushing up my neck. "I didn't mean." "I know," she said. She let her hand drop, stepped back, gave me space like it mattered. "I'm not offended." That made it worse. She introduced herself after that. Her name sounded solid, like it belonged to someone who signed documents without hesitation. She didn't ask my age. Didn't comment on how young I probably looked in my work polo. She asked how long I'd been fixing machines. When I told her not long, she nodded like that explained something but didn't diminish it. The printer started working again. We both heard it click into place at the same time. The room went quiet except for the low hum of electricity. "Thank you," she said. Then, almost as an afterthought, "You're very careful." I laughed, too quickly. "I break fewer things that way." She smiled then. Not wide. Just enough. Over the next few weeks, she came back. Always with a reasonable excuse. Always during slow hours. Sometimes we talked about nothing. Paper quality, weather, the bus routes downtown. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. She'd stand nearby, scrolling through her phone, and I'd suddenly become hyper-aware of my hands, the way I stood, the fact that silence between us didn't feel empty. Once, I offered her coffee from the break room. She took it black, didn't drink it right away. "Let it cool." "You don't rush," I said, without thinking. She looked at me over the rim of the cup. "I've learned not to." That stayed with me. The thing was, nothing happened. No lingering touches. No confessions. But I started noticing the space she left when she stood near me. The way she paused before saying my name. The way her eyes didn't flinch when mine stayed a second too long. The last time that week, she turned to leave, then stopped. Hesitated. Like she was deciding something small but important. "About before," she said. "You weren't looking at me wrong." I waited. "You were just not used to being seen back." Then she walked out, leaving the door swinging softly behind her, and I stood there longer than necessary, replaying the weight of her fingers on my shoulder, wondering when exactly that moment started living rent-free in my head. The next time she came in, it was raining hard enough to blur the front windows. The kind of rain that makes the shop feel smaller, like the world has decided you're not going anywhere for a while. Her coat was darker than I remembered, damp at the shoulders. She held it closed with one hand, the other clutching a folder that had gone a little soft at the edges. She looked tired. Not dramatically so. Just the kind of tired you carry quietly, the kind you don't complain about because it's been there too long. "Printer again?" I asked. She nodded. "If it jams one more time, I might apologize to it." That got a laugh out of me. Hers came a second later, short, surprised, like she hadn't planned on it. I noticed how she covered her mouth afterward, as if laughing had revealed too much. I led her to the back, same room as before. The lights buzzed. The coffee pot was empty this time, cold and forgotten. I started working, explaining what I was doing even though she hadn't asked. She listened anyway, leaning against the counter, arms folded, not defensive, just contained. "You don't have to narrate," she said gently. "Sorry. Habit." "No," she said. "It's fine." I like knowing what's happening. There was something in the way she said like that made me slow down. She watched my hands as I worked. I watched hers when she thought I wasn't. How her fingers flexed slightly, like she was resisting the urge to do something with them. Tap. Fix. Leave. Instead, they stayed still. You always come during the quiet hours, I said. I hadn't meant to call it out. She hesitated. Just a breath too long. I prefer them, she said finally. Less noise. I didn't ask what kind. At one point, the printer refused to cooperate. I sighed under my breath, leaned back, rubbed my eyes. When I opened them, she was closer than before. Not touching, just there. Close enough that I could smell rain and something clean underneath it. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just being dramatic. Her smile flickered. I know the feeling. That was the first crack. Small but real. She looked down then, studied the floor like it might offer an exit. I used to be better at asking for help, she said, almost to herself. Somewhere along the way, I decided I shouldn't need it. I didn't respond right away. I was afraid if I did, I'd say the wrong thing. Or the right thing, too quickly. You're allowed to need it, I said instead. At least with printers. She laughed again, softer this time. Didn't cover her mouth. When the machine finally whirred back to life, she exhaled like she'd been holding something in longer than just that moment. She gathered her folder, paused like she might leave, then didn't. You notice things, she said. Do I? Yes. She met my eyes. Held them. Be careful with that. I will, I said, though I wasn't sure how. She reached out, not to my shoulder this time, but stopped inches away, hands suspended, uncertain. Then she let it fall back to her side. Thank you, she said quietly. As she walked out into the rain, I realized my chest felt tight in a way that had nothing to do with the room, and I stood there wondering what it would have meant if she hadn't pulled her hand back. It happened after closing. I was counting out the register, half listening to the rain taper off outside, when the front bell rang. I almost called out that we were closed. Almost. Then saw her standing there, hair damp, umbrella folded wrong like she hadn't bothered fixing it. I know, she said before I could speak. I'm late. You're fine, I said too quickly. I mean, come in. She stepped inside and shook the rain from her coat, smaller movements than necessary, like she didn't want to disturb the room. The shop felt different after hours. Quieter. The lights warmer. The machines resting instead of humming. I didn't mean to, she said. It just, today, ran away from me. I locked the door behind her without really deciding to. The click echoed. Her eyes flicked to it. Then back to me. I can come back, she offered. You don't have to. We stood there, a few feet apart, both pretending the space wasn't charged. I offered her the chair behind the counter. She sat, smoothing her skirt once, then again. Her hands trembled just enough to notice. You look exhausted, I said. She huffed out a breath. That obvious? Only if you're paying attention. She gave me a look, half warning, half something else. You're still doing that. Doing what? Seeing? I leaned against the counter, crossed my arms so I wouldn't reach for anything. You came in, I said. I figured you wanted to be. She nodded slowly. I did. I just didn't expect it to be so quiet. The silence settled. Not awkward. Heavy. Her phone buzzed on the counter between us. She glanced at the screen and went still. Didn't pick it up. Didn't turn it over. You don't have to answer, I said. I know. She swallowed. But if I don't, it turns into something bigger later. She answered it, voice controlled, clipped. I didn't hear the other side, but I didn't need to. Her shoulders tightened. Her free hand curled into itself. I said I can't tonight, she repeated. No, I'm not doing this here. When she hung up, she stared at the dark screen like it had betrayed her. I'm sorry, she said. That wasn't, it's okay. No, she said quietly. It's not. She stood, walked toward the back room, then stopped. Turned around like she'd forgotten something important and just remembered. I don't usually let myself stay, she said. Places like this. With people who notice. I felt something pull tight in my chest. Then why now? She searched my face, eyes sharp and tired and honest in a way that made me brace myself. Because you don't ask for more, she said. And that makes me want to give it. The words landed between us, unfinished. I took a step closer. Not touching. Close enough to feel the heat from her skin, the faint scent of rain still clinging to her. "If you want me to step back," I said, "say it." She didn't answer. Her breath caught, not a gasp, just a hitch. Her hand lifted, hovered near my wrist, fingers barely brushing the air. The front bell rattled suddenly as the wind pushed against the door, sharp and loud. She flinched, and for a second, just one, I thought she might close the distance anyway. The bell stopped rattling. The wind moved on. What stayed was the quiet. She lowered her hand like it had burned her. Took a step back. Then another. The space between us widened, but it didn't cool anything. It just made it harder to breathe. "This can't keep feeling like this," she said. Her voice wasn't sharp. That scared me more. "Like what?" I asked, even though I knew. She looked around the room, at the counters, the machines, the ordinary things that had somehow become witnesses. "Like I'm standing somewhere I shouldn't be," she said. "With someone I don't have a name for." I didn't interrupt. I could feel myself wanting to fill the silence, to fix it, to say something reassuring. I stayed still instead. Let her have the space she was clearly fighting herself to take. "I come here for practical reasons," she went on. "Or at least that's what I tell myself. But lately," she stopped, pressed her lips together, started again. "Lately I leave feeling like I've forgotten something important. Or like I've remembered it too late." I swallowed. My hands were clenched so tight my knuckles hurt. "We don't have to decide anything," I said. "We can just—" "That's the problem," she cut in gently. "We are just everything." She met my eyes then. Really met them. No deflection. No humor. "I don't know what I'm doing," she said. "And I don't like not knowing." The admission hung there, fragile. I took a breath. "I don't either." She let out a sound that might have been a laugh in another life. "You're younger than me," she said, not accusing. Just stating. "You still think confusion is temporary. And you don't. I think it leaves marks." We stood there, close enough again that stepping back felt like retreat, stepping forward felt like crossing a line neither of us had named out loud. "I notice when you watch me," she said. "I notice when you don't. I notice how careful you are, like you're afraid of breaking something that was already cracked before you touched it." "That's not fair," I said softly. "I know," she replied. "I'm not asking you to carry it." Silence stretched. My heartbeat felt too loud for the room. "You could tell me to stop coming," I said. She shook her head. "And pretend that fixes anything. You could tell me to stop looking." Her eyes flickered. "I don't want you to." That landed harder than anything else she'd said. She stepped closer again. Not enough to touch. Enough that I could see the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, the tired honesty in them. "I need you to understand something," she said. "Whatever this is, it can't be the place I hide from my life." "I wouldn't let it be," I said immediately. She smiled sadly. "You don't get to decide that." Her gaze dropped to my mouth, then back up, like she was correcting herself in real time. "I wish," she said quietly, "that wanting you felt simpler than this." She turned toward the door, hand already on the handle, and before she left, she said the thing that stayed with me long after the room went dark. "I'm afraid that if I let myself touch you, I won't know how to stop." She didn't come back for almost 2 weeks. I told myself it was normal. Printers stayed fixed. Lives moved on. People didn't orbit each other just because a room once held too much silence. Still, every time the front bell rang, my chest tightened before my brain caught up. When she finally did come in, it wasn't alone. She carried a small cardboard box this time. No rain. No hesitation at the door. Just a calm that felt practiced. "I'm clearing out my office," she said. "They're renovating the floor. Thought you might recycle some of this." She set the box on the counter. Old manuals. Cables. A framed photo face down. I nodded, suddenly hyper-aware of my hands again. "Sure." She didn't leave right away. Instead, she picked up the photo, turned it over, then, after a beat, held it out to me. "You asked once why I don't rush," she said. I never answered properly. I took the frame. It was a man about my height. Older than me, but not by much. Same dark hair. Same way of standing like he wasn't fully settled into the ground beneath him. "That's Daniel," she said. "He died 8 years ago." The words were plain, almost gentle. They hit anyway. "I'm sorry," I said, immediately, uselessly. She nodded. "He was 29. Car accident." One of those things that's over before your brain decides it's real. I looked at the photo again, at the familiarity that suddenly made too much sense. You don't remind me of him, she added quickly, like she'd read the thought. Not really. It's not that simple. She took the frame back, traced the edge with her thumb. But you remind me of who I was before, she said. Before everything became about surviving the days instead of wanting them. I didn't know what to do with that. So I didn't pretend to. I don't want to be a replacement, I said quietly. She looked at me, eyes sharp but tired. I would never let you be. Silence again. Different this time. Less charged. More exposed. I stopped letting myself feel things after him, she said. Not consciously. I just reorganized my life around absence. It was easier than hope. I leaned back against the counter, grounding myself. Then why now? She hesitated. Not from fear. From honesty. Because you look at me like I'm still here, she said. Not like someone who made it through something. Just here. That landed somewhere deep and unsettled. She placed the photo back in the box, closed the flaps carefully. Then she did something small and devastating. She reached out and adjusted my sleeve, smoothing a wrinkle that hadn't needed fixing. I'm not asking you for anything, she said. I just didn't want you thinking this was careless. Her fingers lingered a second too long. Not desire. Recognition. I should go, she said. I nodded, because anything else felt dangerous. At the door, she paused. Didn't turn around. Thank you, she said, for not trying to save me. Then she left, and I stood there holding the echo of her touch, realizing the shift hadn't been away from me at all. It had been towards something she was finally willing to name. She came back on a morning that felt unfinished. No rain. No rush. Just a pale sky and a shop that smelled like dust and warm plastic. I was restocking shelves when I heard her footsteps, slower than usual, deliberate, like she'd decided something before she walked in and didn't want to lose it. She didn't bring a box this time. Or a folder. Just herself. I'm not here about the printer, she said. I nodded. I figured. We didn't smile. We didn't fill the space with jokes. She stood by the counter, fingers resting flat against it, grounding herself. I noticed how steady they were. Not tense. Just ready. I've been thinking about what I said, she began. About not hiding. About not being saved. I stayed quiet. Let her set the pace. I meant it, she said. But I also realized something uncomfortable. She looked up at me then. I don't actually want to do this alone. That was it. No drama. No apology wrapped around it. Just the truth, placed carefully between us. I don't want to rush you, I said. Or turn this into something it can't hold. I know, she said. That's why I'm here. She moved around the counter, not close enough to touch. Not far enough to pretend distance. We stood side by side, both facing the same direction, like we were looking at something together instead of each other. I'm not confused anymore, she said. I'm just aware of what this costs and what it gives. I exhaled slow. And you're okay with that? She tilted her head slightly, considering. I'm okay with choosing it. That word settled everything. We didn't kiss. We didn't even turn toward each other right away. She reached out first, not to my shoulder this time, but for my hand. Her fingers slid into mine with no hesitation, no testing. Warm. Certain. I noticed how natural it felt. That scared me more than anything before. She squeezed once. Not a promise. A decision. I don't need this to be loud, she said. I just need it to be real. It is, I replied. We stood there like that for a while. No clock watching. No urgency. Just two people sharing the weight of a moment they weren't pretending away anymore. Eventually, she leaned her forehead lightly against my arm. Not dramatic. Just close enough to rest. Stay with me, she said, not as a plea. As a fact. I am, I said. Outside, the day moved on. Customers would come. Life would intrude. But in that quiet, with her hand in mine and her breath steady beside me, something settled into place. Not love spoken aloud. Something stronger. Something chosen. I didn't understand then how quiet real turning points are. If you asked me now when things changed, I wouldn't point to a kiss or a confession or some dramatic moment that split life into before and after. I'd tell you it was a morning that looked like every other morning. A hand held without hesitation. A decision made without needing witnesses. We didn't announce anything to the world. We didn't explain ourselves to people who would have tried to simplify it. We just kept showing up. Together. Carefully at first. Then less so. What changed in me was subtle but permanent. I stopped measuring myself against what I thought I should be. Her age. Her past. The invisible rules I'd been raised to believe mattered more than how something felt. Being with her taught me that restraint isn't the same as maturity, and that patience, when chosen together, can be its own kind of courage. What changed in her took longer. I saw it in small ways before she ever named it. The way she stopped apologizing for taking up space. The way her laugh came quicker, fuller. The way she stopped bracing herself before reaching for my hand, like she no longer expected it to disappear. She never became someone new. She just returned to herself. And love, if that's what this is, turned out not to be loud or overwhelming or reckless. It was quieter than that. Steadier. Less about being consumed and more about being seen without flinching. Sometimes we sit together in silence, and I think back to the first time she touched my shoulder. How I thought the moment was about being embarrassed, about looking the wrong way. I know better now. She wasn't correcting me. She was warning me that once you really see someone, and they let you, you don't walk away unchanged. We still move slowly. We still talk things through. We still leave room for the past without letting it drive. There's no illusion that this is easy or perfect or immune to time. But it's honest. And that's more than I ever expected from something that started in a back room with a broken printer and a sentence I couldn't stop replaying in my head. Some connections don't arrive loudly. They arrive quietly and stay. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?